जना
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी
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 गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी
गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी
गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी
गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी
यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन
यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन
यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन
यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय
जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय
जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय
जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
श्रील प्रभुपाद की
जय.
We'll turn off the video and then Amrita Keli will start the class. टेबल नहीं लाना तो
We'll start with the invocation prayers. Om Ajnatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatham Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much everybody for joining us for the Gita Jayanti program this evening. Rasraj Prabhu, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir, you can share. Yeah.
I can share? Okay. Okay, just requesting everybody to give me a moment. Can you see Rasraj Prabhu?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. So thank you very much again, everybody, and welcome for the Gita Jayanti class this evening. I've been out of sync for quite a while now. I'm speaking after a very long break, so I'm very rusted. And I also know that devotees have been attending Bhagavad Gita classes regularly for the last 9 months. So in all likelihood, this assembly, the devotees here know much more than I know. Ganpati Govind approached me a few days ago and I told him that I'll try, but I'm going to start with a disclaimer that if you have any difficult technical questions at the end of the class, I'm going to defer them to Jiva Mataji Pyare Prabhu, Ganpati Govind or Srinivas Acharya Prabhu. So let's get started. Request everybody for their blessings so that I can do justice to the class today. So Bhagavad Gita, today is Gita Jayanti, Mokshada Ekadashi, the day Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, to Arjuna. And this was spoken on the battlefield. Rasraj Prabhu, are you monitoring the chat window?
Yes, Madhuri.
Okay. I
Do
just
you
want
need
to know
something?
I just want to know, is there anybody who's new? Anybody who's joining for the first time or has recently started attending, or is it our regular congregation?
I don't see any new.
Yeah, regular attendance. Okay, that's good. So the reason I asked is because if there is a new person, or if there's somebody who's who's recently started attending, then I like to give more of a background. But I think I can jump straight into the context here. Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Shri Krishna to Arjuna. Bhagavad means by God and Gita means a song. So Bhagavad Gita translates into song spoken by God. And this was spoken by Shri Krishna to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So as I was meditating for the class today, I was thinking, there are devotees who are doing the Bhakti Shastri course, and Srinivas Acharya Prabhu is teaching the class. And there are devotees who have been leading Bhakti Vriksha programs for many years now. So clearly, devotees here have a lot of knowledge and experience in not just reading Bhagavad Gita, but preaching and training others in Bhagavad Gita. So what could I do to add value to the session? What could I do or what could I share from my perspective that will help devotees deepen their understanding? That pretty, came up empty. Don't have deep realizations, but I put together some thoughts in a PowerPoint and just want to share that with the devotees today. So I'm going to draw a parallel between Arjuna and the living entity in the material world. Arjuna, who is the devotee and friend of Krishna, was chosen for this, he was chosen to be spoken the Bhagavad Gita to, because he's a devotee and a friend of Krishna. So he's a realized soul, but he was put into that condition so that Krishna could use him as an instrument to give a message that he wants to share with everybody in the material world. So here's a picture of Arjuna looking very confused and surrendering to Krishna and saying that, I do not want to fight. I don't want to fight the battle. And you can see, the Gandiva has slipped from his shoulder and the arrows are falling off. And, the hair is standing on his ends and he's perspiring and he's like, all despondent and telling Krishna that I don't know what to do now. I'm confused. I don't want to fight this battle. So let's try to draw a parallel between Arjuna and the living entity. Who's Arjuna? Arjuna is the greatest warrior. He was the supreme archer, he was extremely skilled, and he was expert at fighting battles. At the time when Battle of Kurukshetra was taking place, Arjuna had fought many battles by that time. So, there's one thing to go to college, and then there's another thing to get trained or to get experience in that. So I'll give you an example. Say somebody wants to get a knee surgery done, and there is a doctor who who graduated from the medical school with a very good score, but has not performed a knee surgery yet. If you need a knee surgery, are you going to go to the doctor who has performed knee surgeries before, or are you going to go to the one who has just graduated from medical school and does not have experience? So obviously, we're going to go to the one that has experience doing surgeries. So the point I'm trying to make is Arjuna was not just trained very well, but he also had experience fighting battle. Despite that, when he comes on the battlefield to fight this war, he becomes bewildered and confused. So let's look at the living entity. Living entity in this material world, has unlimited desires to consume or enjoy resources, desire to control situations or circumstances, desire to convince others of our viewpoint, desire to win the argument or establish our supremacy in front of others, and the desire to compete and to conquer. A living entity also has certain abilities. The desire to consume, control, convince, or compete and conquer is unlimited. But our ability to satisfy all these desires, sadly, is limited. So living entity has unlimited desires, however, limited abilities. And that mismatch causes frustration. And we'll go forward. I'm going to go back to Arjuna here. I know that picture looks a little cheesy, but that's the best I could find. So let's look at Arjuna one more time. Arjuna's swabhava was that of a Kshatriya. Arjuna's training was also that of a Kshatriya. And his occupation was also that of a Kshatriya. So he was born into a Kshatriya family, swabhava. He was trained in the forest, and also after coming to Hastinapur by Dronacharya in the warfare knowledge, he was trained as a Kshatriya. And then his occupation, he was a Kshatriya and he was fighting battles, was that of a, so his sadharma was also that of a Kshatriya. Now in the material world, living entity has the challenge. Very often, if not, we see that it's very difficult to have a match in all those three. It's very challenging in modern times to have the three match. And I can give my personal example. I was born into a family of teachers. I went to school for electrical engineering. I came to US for MBA. I'm working as a risk manager and I'm identifying myself as a mother. So you see, I'm identifying how many different identities I have. And therefore, in the material world, it's very likely that the living entity is going to get confused, disoriented, depressed, and he is not going to know what to do in a difficult situation. And Arjuna, Arjuna who had, coherence in all three, in his nature, in his training and his occupation, even Arjuna got bewildered and confused. So what to speak of a normal mortal living entity in the material world? Again, going back, Arjuna was experienced in fighting many battles, and despite his skills, despite his training, and despite his superior abilities, he was bewildered and confused. So Krishna is explaining to us, using Arjuna as an example, that despite abilities, despite our skill, despite our training, despite our degrees, despite our financial assets, despite the security of a home or a family, we cannot control our circumstances. The circumstances are beyond our control. The ability of a living entity to consume, convince, conquer, or control circumstances is very limited. We, however, have unlimited ability to control our consciousness. We cannot control our situation. We cannot control our circumstances. We can, however, control our consciousness. So again, looking at Arjuna, in the beginning, in chapter 1, Arjuna tells Krishna very clearly, I do not want to fight this battle. And he gives 5 reasons for not fighting the battle. And they're actually very, apparently very logical, rational reasons of why he does not want to fight the battle. And at the end of the 18th chapter, 45 minutes later, after Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Arjuna is willingly fighting the battle. He's ready, he's geared up, and he's in agreement with what Krishna is saying. He decides to fight the battle. So what changed? Nothing changed. The reasons he gave, that these are my how can I kill my great grandfather? How can I kill my teacher? How can I kill my cousins? If I kill, there will be loss of religion. There will be, unprotected women and children, and, the traditions and the parampara will be lost. All those reasons were still valid. He, however, decides to fight. So what was it that changed? The only thing that changed was that he transformed his consciousness. So hence proving that just like Arjuna was in a difficult situation, the living entity is bound to face problems or difficulties in life. The world is dukhalem ashashvatam, the material world. And to find a solution to those problems, we don't have to change our situation or our circumstances. All we need to do is transform our consciousness. And how do we do that? We do that by reading this Granth, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as it is. So Bhagavad Gita 2.7, Karpanya dosho fata swabhava. Arjuna says, now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and the soul surrendered onto you. Please instruct me. I know I touched upon this earlier a little bit, but we can discuss, we're going to discuss a little bit in more detail. Why is it that Arjuna was confused about his duty? What was it that caused him the confusion? In the material world, living entity has many different identities. And the line of duty that we attach ourselves to depends on what particular role we are identifying with. And our absorption in a particular duty depends on the role that we, identify with ourselves the most. So Arjun, for example, he was a Kshatriya, so his identity was that of a Kshatriya. When he came on the battlefield, it's very clear that as a Kshatriya, he should fight the battle. But when he asks Krishna to pull the chariot between the two armies and he observes the opposing side, he sees Bhishma and he identifies it. Okay, this Bhishma Dev, he is my great grandfather and I am his grandson. As a grandson, I should love my grandfather. I should respect. I should have a loving exchange with him and not exchange arrows with him. So his identity of grandson is conflicting with his identity as a Kshatriya. And then he moves on. He sees Dronacharya. Dronacharya is my teacher. He's the person who trained me. It's because of his blessings that I'm able to fight properly. It's because of his training that I am a good archer today. So I should pay my respect and homage to Dronacharya and not make an attempt to kill him. So his identity as the student of Dronacharya is conflicting with his identity as that of a Kshatriya. Because he was identifying himself as a student, as a grandson more, and because that was taking precedence, that's why he was losing the will to fight. His absorption in those identities was so strong that he was losing the ability to, he was not losing the ability, he was losing the will and the desire to fight because of his different identities. So again, Krishna spoke this Bhagavad Gita to explain to Arjuna that when you have different identities in the material world, especially conflicting identities, then it is the time for you to rise to your identity that is permanent, which is not temporary like the material identities. And that is the identity which is, and that is being the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And that is the eternal identity. See, what happens is whenever there is a change, change, we see change as unwelcome. Change brings uncertainty, which we translate into as a crisis. Whenever something is stable and permanent, we are peaceful. Last year, one of our, I remember one of our friends were, they almost lost their job, and they had to look around, and then they had to move to Canada. And they were like disturbed for many months because you're so deeply rooted here, and in the Texas area, and then you have to make the attempt to sell the house and this and that. So change, change of location, change of job, change of residence, that is all, it's seen as something unpleasant. It's a crisis. But if you are permanent, then you see that as a very peaceful situation. So once we start identifying with our real eternal self, that's when we become peaceful, because that is the identity that never changes. And that's what Krishna explained to Arjuna. So struggle to maintain our different temporary identities is what causes anxiety. Once we start identifying ourselves as the part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and once we are permanently fixed in that understanding, then we become free of all anxieties. And that's what the book Bhagavad Gita trains us in. So one more point I want to touch upon, and I heard this in a lecture by Gaurang Prabhu, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. See, when there is a, I don't know if you have experienced, I one time got a shock from the phone charger. It's not a very strong shock, it's mild, just a little shock, it's not very intense. So living entity can tolerate shocks which are mild, which are not strong. Living entity can also tolerate difficult situations which happen repeatedly, because we get trained to handle those. I'll give an example. Suppose somebody, I have a friend, and her daughter was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes at a very young age. And they were in shock for some time, and then she had to get insulin, and there's a pump that's attached to her body. So over the time, they have adjusted, they have accepted it, and they have adjusted. They have a plan. She refills the pump every 2-3 days, and they manage the situation like that. The point I'm trying to make is that if the shock is mild, the living entity gets used to it. If the shock happens repeatedly over a period of time, the living entity gets used to it. But if a shock is sudden and very intense, then that is what encourages the living entity to go and find a solution. The living entity does not comply with just accepting that. And that's when the complete transformation happens. So Krishna very purposely created a very intense and sudden shock for Arjuna to experience, because of which he said, I'm bewildered, I'm confused, I'm a soul surrendered unto you. I do not know what I should do. Please guide me. And that's when he was able to transform his consciousness completely through Krishna's words. So, I started attending Rasnath Prabhu's classes. He used to teach Bhagavad Gita in the Albany program in 2002. And that time, we were students in university, and the natural aptitude was to study books and attend classes. So, there were 15, 16 other students along with me, and attending classes and reading came very naturally to us. So at that time, the desire to read Bhagavad Gita was to, attend the class, and, we were curious students looking for knowledge and to get the knowledge. Then we became more steady and sincere in our devotional practices, and, the goal of reading Bhagavad Gita changed to getting a deeper understanding. It was going beyond just, okay, I want to know the verses, and, I want to know, what's where, and it went beyond just curiosity. 2-3 years ago, we did Bhakti Shastri program with Yugal Kishore Prabhu, and the objective of reading Bhagavad Gita that time was to be able to do the assignments and do the test and pass the Bhakti Shastri. And in the recent crisis with Krishangi's health, I felt that Krishna was telling me that you have not taken real shelter of the book. And I realized that it was time for me to go deeper in my understanding, because that complete transformation of consciousness had not taken place despite having associated with the book for so many years. And that's where my perspective for today's class comes, that, we, of course, reading the book is the first step, but reading it and then applying it practically in life is what acharyas really want us to do, so that we are able to transform our consciousness in such a way that the anxieties don't bother us. I'm going to, compare the example of Karna and Arjuna here. Arjuna, when he was, despondent, he surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to him. And, he used that opportunity to understand and apply that knowledge. Now, contrast that with Karna's situation. Krishna himself personally spoke to Karna and made Karna aware of his identity as Kaunteya, as the son of Kunti, as the eldest son of Kunti. And Krishna cited many examples, and he explained to Karna how, even though he was born before his marriage to Pandu Maharaj, still he was a Pandava. And Krishna addressed him like that, and he said that you are the eldest Pandava. And Krishna tried impressing that identity upon him. Kunti Devi, mother, Vedic scriptures are like mother. Kunti Devi personally approached Karna and tried convincing him of his identity as her son and the elder brothers of the Pandavas. But he did not agree. He was so much caught up in falsely identifying as the friend of Duryodhan and somebody who wanted to become a martyr in serving Duryodhan, that he lost that opportunity to surrender to Krishna and transform. And then, of course, we all know what his end was. So I just thought that was an interesting contrast. Like, who we all want to follow in the footsteps of superheroes, like from little kids to big people. We all like superheroes. So who do we want to make our hero? We want our hero to be Karna, or we want our hero to be Arjuna? Of course, Arjuna is our hero, right? So we have to use the book to transform our consciousness. And again, I'm the first one who's falling short of that. As I'm speaking, I'm kind of mentally making a note that I should start implementing. It's high time. The next point I want to make is, Rasraj Prabhu, I don't have a clock here. How much time do we have?
So you can go up to
Okay.
750.
Okay, Prabhu, I have time.
Yeah.
The next point I want to make is skills versus will. So we all know that Arjuna was the supreme archer. He was trained and educated very well. He was an expert. He had access to resources from demigods. When Krishna approached Arjuna and asked him, when he was sitting with Duryodhan, that, do you want me or do you want my Narayani Sena? And Arjuna said, no, I don't want your army. I want you, Krishna. Arjuna by that time had weapons from Indradev, weapons from Lord Shiva. He had weapons from Agni Dev, Divyastra, different celestial weapons. So he had skills and he had resources. Despite that, he became confused and bewildered, and he lost the will to fight. So that proves one more point, that we could have the fanciest of degrees from the fanciest colleges. We could have access to the best resources. But if our consciousness is not refined enough to help us identify with our real identity, in a crisis situation, we will lose our will to fight. We will become confused and bewildered. And that applies not just to us, but that applies to the next generation as well. Most of us here are grahastas, and we are making attempts to make sure that our children have the necessary skills. But at the same time, we have to make an attempt to make sure that the children of the children are trained in such a way that if they face a situation, they have the ability to use their will as well to make the right decision, because the skills by themselves and the resources by themselves will not be enough. So as part of training our children, as part of their upbringing, Krishna conscious education or training is an essential part of the upbringing. And again, I speak that for myself more than for others. I don't want to take an overly preachy mode, but these are again just some of the things and realizations that I have thought in the last few days, and I just jotted them on paper today to share for the purpose of this class. So only when we ourselves and children are trained suitably in Krishna conscious knowledge will we be able to synthesize all our different multiple identities, many times conflicting multiple identities, with that of our real eternal identity. I remember there's a conversation in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. I think it's chapter 20. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to Sanatan Goswami, and he's explaining that Jivaray Swaruparay Krishnere Nitya Das. Like, living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. And when he understands that I am the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, and when he gets that understanding, when he is fixed in that thought, and when he practices accordingly, that is when he is able to cut the knot of the attachments with the material world. And that's when he is considered self-realized. The beginning of Bhagavad Gita was Arjun Vishad Yoga. Vishad means sorrow, like, grief. So yoga means to connect. So why is chapter 1 called Arjun Vishad Yoga? Because Arjuna used that misery or that problem or that difficulty to connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So many times what we see as a problem or a difficulty or a test is actually Krishna's arrangement to bring us closer to him. And again, it's easier said than done. So whenever there is a problem or a difficulty, then I remember my Guru Maharaj many years ago, he gave a class and he said that tests in life actually are Krishna's assistants. They are trying to bring you closer to Krishna's lotus feet. So this book, Bhagavad Gita, is the ultimate cure for all suffering. And, there's been a program since this morning and all of you have been, contributing and participating in that program. So again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. But this book, in a nutshell, tells us how we can become free from suffering. Who does not want that? Which person does not want to become free from suffering? Srila Prabhupada, one time he was distributing, I don't recall what book, it was, I think, Easy Journey to Other Planets. And he approached a person and he gave it to him. And, this person, I think this was in Jhansi. And Srila Prabhupada gave him this book. And this person said, okay, what do I do with this book? And Srila Prabhupada explained that, with this book, you will know how you can easily go to other planets, easy journey to other planets. And then this person asked, can I come back to Jhansi after that? So again, it's a duh question. Like, if you can go to a better planet, why do you want to come back to Jhansi? Or why do you want to come back to the earthly planet? Our goal is clear. Our goal is to be free from suffering. Nobody can deny that. Who can say that, I have a different goal? At the end of the day, everybody's goal is to be free from suffering. What is suffering? Suffering is getting which we don't want and not getting that which we desire for. That is suffering. What is the cause of suffering? Cause of suffering is forgetfulness of our real identity of being Krishna's part and parcel and eternal servant. If the cause of suffering is the forgetfulness of our real identity, what is the solution? Solution is the remembrance that we are part and parcel of Krishna. Now again, so Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell covers what is suffering, what is the cause of suffering, what is the solution to the suffering. The last is how to tolerate suffering. And I'll give an example here. Many times children get ear infection and they get very high fever in ear infection. And when the parents go to the pediatrician prescribes antibiotic. It's like really yucky looking pink colored candy flavored antibiotic, and the child has to drink that for 7 days. When the first day when you give the child, does the fever immediately go away? No. Does the bacterial infection immediately go away? No. The symptoms last for 2-3 days, they start coming down, and by the 7th day, the bacteria has been completely eradicated. You are free. The child is free from suffering and the child is healthy. So we know the suffering. We know the cause of the suffering. We know the solution is remembrance of Krishna. But when we start implementing the solution, the symptoms don't go away immediately. It takes some time, just like it takes some time for the antibiotic to do its work. The symptoms still last for a few days. So what do we do that during that period? We just tolerate. And that's where the verse 2.17, what's the, I'm forgetting, 2.14.
Matra Sparshas to
Kvanteya Shitoshna Dukkha. So appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress is like the temporary appearance and disappearance of happiness of summer and winter season, O Partha, and they will go of their own accord. So for that time period, we just tolerate. So here comes our, Mahaprabhu's prayer from Shishtashtakam. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi saheshnuna amani namana dena kirtanya sadahari. So be tolerant like a blade of humble, become more humble than a blade of grass and tolerant like a tree. So tolerate the suffering. So in a nutshell, suffering is not getting what we want and getting what we don't desire. Getting the unwanted, not getting what we want. Cause of suffering is forgetfulness of Krishna. Solution is remembrance. And how to tolerate? We just patiently accept that the symptoms will last for some time and then they will go away, just like the winter and the summer season move off their own accord in the cycle. And all that knowledge is explained in the book. So when Ganpati Govind approached me a few days ago, I asked him how I should prepare for the class because I had not spoken in a very long time. And I'll be honest, I haven't been able to, do much reading lately, actually do any reading lately. So he said, Mataji, we can cover Chatur Shloki Gita 10.8 to 10.11. But I want to pause here. I want to stop. It's 7:48. And we can open up for questions and comments. You guys have been attending programs since morning, and then if there are none, then maybe we can just end a little early. So any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Amrita Kelly Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance, Vishnu Prabhupada.
All goes to Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I'm a little embarrassed. You had to sit through my class. You are training 22 devotees in ISKCON Connecticut in Bhagavad Gita.
It's wonderful. This class is so nice. There's a difference between speaking with realization and speaking for the sake of analysis like me. So it's wonderful, everything you explained. It's very nice. So many things you added, explained in a detailed way. Arjuna's character, suffering, and your own realization of how the practical situation really helped you to connect back with all your learning and question yourself about how deep your learning was. These are all, very important things for all of us to make sure we are ready with the, the theory is there, but be prepared for the practical tests. That's the main thing. So thank you very much. It was nectar.
Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement, Prabhuji. Please give us your blessings, Prabhu.
You should bless us.
Anybody else has a question or a comment? Rasraj Prabhu, I'm not very good with Zoom, so I don't know if anybody would be raising hand or...
No, Mataji, no one is raising hand, and everyone is aware of Zoom by now. So
Okay.
anyone has a question, they usually unmute themselves and ask. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So what should we do? Should we do Chatur Shloki?
Yes, why not? You already
Yeah, go ahead,
prepared.
Mataji. You have 10 more
Okay.
minutes. So.
Okay. Does anybody want to volunteer to read?
Yes, Mataji, I can do.
Okay, go ahead. Who's this? Sorry, I didn't see.
It was me, Mataji.
You want to say
Chaitanya.
Oh, Chaitanya, thank you. So Chaitanya, do you know you can open 10.8,
Yeah,
go to asitis.com?
Yeah.
Okay, start with 10.8.
Okay, I'm just opening it up, Mataji.
Yeah. Chaitanya, thank you for sitting through the class.
Oh, okay. You're welcome, Mataji. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mataha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Mataji, should I say the translation?
Yeah, go ahead with the translation. Yeah.
Okay. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly knows this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Anybody else wants to go with 10.9? Okay, no volunteers? So Chaitanya, why don't you do 10.9 through 10.11?
Okay.
Verse and the translation.
Okay. Machita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam dushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Tesham evanukampartam aham ajnanajam tama nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasataha. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge and the darkness born of ignorance.
So 10.8 and 10.9, Krishna is telling us what to do. He's saying, become wise, engage in my devotional service, and worship me with all your heart. In 10.9, he's saying, devotees, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. So he's basically saying, become fully devoted in my service. And they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So that's Krishna Katha and Krishna Kirtan. So he's 10.8 and 10.9, he's telling us what we should do. And then in the next two verses, he's telling us what he is going to do in reciprocation of what we are going to do in 8 and 9. So actually, I really like these 4 verses. He's saying, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So he's saying, you worship me, you talk about me, you converse about me, you enlighten others about me, and then you will come to me. 10.11, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And I think the conversation between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatan Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita also talks about cutting the knot of ignorance with that light, with that knowledge, the knowledge and the self-realization that we are the part and parcel of Krishna, being situated in that, being fixed in that understanding. So Krishna is promising you do 8 and 9, and then I will do 10 and 11 in reciprocation. So it's 7:55. If there are no other questions or comments, then we can end. Thank you, Vech. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating today. Hare Krishna. Ganpati, are you online?
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
वाञ्छाकल्पातरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो
गुरुभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो
नमो नमः। कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, की जय।
नमः। Hare Krishna.
Thank you,